Welcome to the Midlife Sex Coach for Women podcast, the only show that combines a fun personality, medical knowledge, sexual counseling, and life coaching together to create unique sex coaching that helps busy women awaken their libidos, address intimacy issues, and learn how to express their sexuality for the rest of their days. Here's your host, certified life coach and sexual counselor, Dr. Sonia Wright.
You are listening to the Midlife Sex Coach for Women podcast, episode 241. Woo, 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 woo. Hello, diamonds. How are you doing today? It is so good to see, hear, be here, all the things. So I've got something on my mind this week, and I have to tell you, I'm thinking a lot about transitions. Why transitions? Well, this week we drove and dropped my baby girl off at college. Like, even saying that, it's like I'm not ready. I thought I was ready, and I'm not ready. And we drove her out of state to college, and I realized that so much is going to change for her, and her life is going to look so different. And mom and the whole family are not necessarily going to be right there. We're always going to be there to love and support her, but we're not necessarily going to be right there at any moment, like to take care of everything that she needs. We're just like, oh my goodness, baby girl, you're on your own. Like, that is okay. And you're going to have to make decisions for yourself. And she's doing a good job. I'm not quite sure how good of a job mom is doing. And I realize that this is a transition for everybody, not just for my daughter. It's a transition for everyone in our household. We all have to get used to her not being with us all the time, for things changing, for her growing and expanding and stepping into her greatness, like all the fabulous things that are going to happen in her life. And at the same time, as I realize there's transitions for her, there's also transitions for me and for the family, right? And so my mind is on transitions. And it's kind of, it brings you back to that moment in time. Maybe it brings you back. Like for me, it brings me back to that moment in time when I left the house at 17 and how my life changed completely, and how I was very much on my own from that point on. I think maybe I'm a little bit more of a helicopter parent, because it's a different generation from when we were raised. And so I tend to be there and watching over my kids. And so letting go maybe feels a little bit like, oh my goodness, how's she going to do? And it also makes me think about all different transitions. So I want to talk to you about transitions, life experiences, what's going on with us, and what's happening in midlife around these transitions. So we are constantly becoming somebody. Whether we know it or not, we're constantly becoming the next version of ourselves. And it may be the case that we're striving to become the healthier version of ourselves, or maybe a thinner version of ourselves, or a sexier version of ourselves, or a more successful version of ourselves. Maybe the healed version of ourselves. Maybe the woman who finally has her finances all together, or figures out relationships, or the woman who finally loves her body, or the woman who finally loves and has amazing intimacy. We're striving for that woman that has her shit together, right? And we spend so much time trying to get to be her, trying to get to her, trying to get to that stage in our life, that sometimes we forget to meet the woman who we are already, who's here right now. And as I'm thinking about transitions and going into the next one and the next one and the next one, I want to make sure that I'm taking the time, and you as my diamonds are taking the time to meet yourself right where you are and to appreciate who you are right now. So diamonds, I want to talk about something different. What if, just for a minute, we stop trying so hard to become the next version of ourselves? What if we simply allowed ourselves to be who we are? What if you simply allowed yourself to meet her where she is right now? Not the version of you 6 months from now, and not the version of you that has lost all the weight, not when the relationship has improved, and not when you're making more money, and not when your hormones have settled down, and not when you figured out your career, and not when your children are doing exactly what you hoped they would do. Let me just tell you right now, that's never going to happen. And not when your sex life changes or improves, but right now, today. What would happen if you allowed yourself to be exactly where you are in the midst of everything, right? In the midst of another transformation? What if we just put everything on hold and just said, hey, how are you doing right now? Who are you? I'd like to know who you are kind of in the messy middle. I'd like to know what's going on in your life, right? I think many of us are trained from a very young age to look to the future. And I'm thinking about this as I drop my daughter off at college, and we're thinking about what is her future going to look like, right? But so often we're thinking about what is the future? What happens when I finish school or medical school or whatever? What happens when I get married or when I have kids or when the kids move out and I'm an empty nester? What happens when I get that promotion or make more money or lose the 20 pounds or menopause finally sorts itself out? What happens when my libido comes back and when I figure everything out? At that point, is that the point when I get to relax, when I get to be happy, when I get to enjoy life? Or does it get to be right now when I'm in the middle of everything, when I'm in the middle of transformations and transitions and life changes and everything isn't sewed up and wrapped up in a nice gift box, but it's still the wrapping paper's over here. The gift is uh in your cart. You don't have it yet. You forgot where you put the scissors, and there's no tape. What if we looked at life at that point in time before it's wrapped up with bows and looks so perfect? I'm kind of tired of waiting for the then, when this happens, when we get to this place in life. You know, um, so often there's always another goal or another problem or another something that needs fixing, and suddenly you look up and you're 45, you're 50, you're 55, you're 60, you're 65, you're 70. I think all these things I'm thinking about because I'm heading into 60, right? And I'm also thinking, what do I want my 60s to be like? I think I want my 60s to be about acceptance where I am and living my best life right now and not necessarily waiting till everything is perfect, but finding the perfection in the imperfection and finding it at where I am right now. So you spent decades waiting for permission to live the life you're already living. What? Diamonds. What we're in right now, this is true life. This is it. This today, this Tuesday, this Wednesday, this body, this relationship or lack of relationship, whatever's going on. This is your life right now, right? This house, your career, your bank account, not when you get paid, your paycheck or anything. This season, this imperfect, complicated, beautiful, occasionally annoying life. This is it. This gets to be it, right? And we get to show up as wonderful and beautiful and perfectly imperfect, right now. And it doesn't mean that we don't have dreams and we don't have goals and we don't want things to change, but it means we stop making our ability to experience joy contingent upon things changing and becoming perfect, right? We can, in the midst of everything, experience joy. We can experience joy in the messy middle and the craziness that's going on, right? How about this thought that you can want something different without rejecting what you have right now? It's something I've been thinking a lot about, right? Um, as I hit 60, I realized that I have been striving for a long, 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 long time. And there's been some good benefits from striving. There's a lot of things that I've created, but it's also created this I don't think mechanism is the right word. It's also created this thing where, like, sometimes I don't know when to stop striving and when to look around and when to breathe the air and when to go, wow, that's pretty good, Sonia. There's a difference there's a difference between saying, I would like something to change and saying, I can't be okay until this changes. These are two completely different experiences. I think what's happening as I get older, as I realize there's just no such thing as perfection. And what if perfection were experienced right now in what is, right? Um, you can want to get healthier and love the body that you're in today. You can want more intimacy and appreciate the connections that already exist. You can want more money and enjoy your life at this current income. You could want a different career and still recognize that your current career, has given you a lot of benefits. You can want your children to thrive and also realize that that is without making their choices responsible for your peace. Like, they're going to choose to live their life the way they're going to live their life. So you can want something for them, but if that's not what they want, then that's not what they're going to get, right? And so being in a place where you love your children and want them to thrive and also allow them to make choices in their life and allow their life to turn out the way it's going to turn out, right? That's what gives you peace. You can want more pleasure without believing that your current life is somewhat deficient. Growth does not require rejection. So that's something important to know and understand. So let me say that again. Growth does not require you to reject the life you have right now or the woman you are today. And as I'm thinking about this, I was in one of my coaching calls recently, and somebody was talking about the fact that they don't engage in sexual intimacy because they have a large abdomen, they have a tummy. And because they don't have a concept that this tummy is sexy and they're allowed to have sexual intimacy with a tummy, they are rejecting the opportunities for joy and pleasure and connection right now because they think they are not worthy, because they think that their body has to look perfect in a certain way in order for them to enjoy pleasure. And that's just not true. And we get to choose that we may want our body to be healthy or whatever. And we can be in it right now and have all the pleasure right at this moment. Sometimes we think that transformation requires dissatisfaction. So if I'm happy with myself now, I won't change. If I accept my body, I'll stop taking care of it. I think that's just the opposite. When you get to a place where you love your body, you want to take care of it even more. So for those women that may be, and other genders that may be in a place where you're not loving your body and you're not thinking that it is the way it quote unquote should be, so you can't love it. Recognize that when you love your body is really when you can choose to be kind to it, when you can choose to feed it the healthy foods you want to feed it, when you can choose to move it a certain way with love. Like, there's such a difference between loving your body and getting healthy versus rejecting your body and pushing it to be something that it isn't right now. And the message that your body is getting is that you don't love it. So I'm going to say again, you can love your body. You can decide that growth does not require you to reject the body you have today, the woman you are today, the life that you have today. Maybe people say, if I accept my relationship, nothing will improve. I can tell you, actually, a lot can improve when you get to a place where you're like, this is actually my relationship. This is what's happening today. And I will come to a place of peace from accepting it as it is, accepting my partner as they are. and not trying to change them. When you come from a place of peace and acceptance and allowing, you can accomplish so much more if you choose to. And that's an important part. You don't have to choose to, but if you choose to, coming from a place of peace is just a gift that you get to give to yourself, right? Instead of saying, if I start worrying about my children, I'm not being a good mother, you could say, I love my children and I get to be a good mother, but I can release the worrying if I want to, right? It's not like you have to reject everything in your life in order to get to a place of peace. So my question to you is, what if sustainable transformation actually comes from love, right? What if we leave the past where it belongs and we focus on love and we focus on the future? So let's talk about the past for a second. We're going to leave it there, but we're going to talk about it. Because diamonds, we can carry some shit. I mean, we can carry a big load of shit. And I know at 60, I've carried a lot on my back. And I can also choose to let it go, right? So we can carry things that people said to us or about us from 30 years ago. We can carry childhood wounds. We can carry marriages and relationships that have ended. The things our parents did, the things our parents didn't do, the things our children said, the things our partners said, the things our bosses said and our friends said, and mistakes that we've made and opportunities that we have missed. But we're physically standing here in 2026, and our emotions may be focused on an argument that happened with somebody in 1997. Like, when do we give that up? They're not in the room. They're living their best life right now, and we're still holding on to this bullshit, right? We're trying to win that argument now in the shower. The past can teach us, it can inform us, but the past and how we think about the past, it deserves compassion. And sometimes it deserves grief and mourning. Sometimes it deserves anger. And if we need to, sometimes it deserves therapy and coaching and a community and a spiritual support for this whole process. But there's also another question that we get to ask. Do I still need to carry it? Now, I think this is the most important question. Give yourself this gift. Do I still need to carry it? Do I still need to carry it? I can't change it. As you can tell, there's been a lot of thoughts on my mind, right? Transitions, accepting where I am, releasing the past, deciding to let go of the 30 pounds of trauma and emotional bullshit from the past, like letting that all go. Because we get the choice. Remembering something and carrying something, they're not the same thing. Like, if you're choosing to heal, it doesn't mean you have to forget about the past, and it doesn't mean that you have to pretend that everything's perfect. You can choose if you want to forgive somebody, and it really is true that forgiveness is for you. It gives you that peace that you want. You can choose what you want. And you also don't have to turn your painful experiences into inspirational stories. Sometimes things just sucked, and you get to release that. It can just suck. And that's where it ends, right? But if it happened in the past, it can also be released and left in the past because I don't need to continue to experience it every day for the rest of my life. So much is going on right now in midlife, and we get to really evaluate everything. We get to choose what we want our future to be. We get to choose where we want to be and what we want to experience right now in the present. And we get to release the past. And if you think about it, the past is done and the future, we don't really even know what our future is. And we just have right now. So we get to be right now. And this gets to be the time for you, the time to get to know who you are at this point, the time to be like, oh, yeah, a lot has happened in my life. And I get to appreciate where I'm at. And I get to love where I'm at. And I get to release the past. And I get to meet the person that I am currently. And I can choose the future as well and transitions in the future if I want to. But don't skirt through or fly over the present so quickly, right? There's a lot that's changing in our lives. And with that changing, we also get to grieve the changing of it. And I think that sometimes when we're not in the present and we're not doing this process of grieving, which is part of the release, we don't get the full experience. We want to just jump over the hard parts and then get to the good parts. But grieving may be something that we need to do in order to release it, right? So you may have to grieve some beautiful things. You may have to grieve the little children that are no longer running around in your house, right? That's a big thing for me. All my kids are 13 years of age or older, right? And they're never going to come back. But sometimes I do grieve the 6-year-old little boy that my son is about 20 years older now, who he was when he was 6 years old, right? And I grieve that time, and I just love the time that I'm having now with him. So maybe you're grieving that a relationship that once felt different in what it is right now. Maybe you're grieving a role that you're in, like as a caregiver. Maybe you're grieving that your career is changing. Maybe you're grieving fertility and your youth. Maybe grieving a version of yourself, um, or grieving dreams that didn't necessarily happen. And there's nothing wrong with that grieving process. And there's nothing wrong with missing the people of the past and the experiences of the past. You can miss it all and honor it and love it. And you can be here as well. And you don't have to go back and live in the past in order to honor it. You can visit it here and there, but you can also say thank you. Thank you for all the experiences that happened. Thank you for getting me to this place. Maybe thank you for surviving, and thank you for trying and loving. You can thank the version of yourself that has done all of these things to get you to this place. And you can say hello to the version of yourself that's right here, right? We get to honor the past, remember the past, step into the present, and don't jump over the present in order to get to the future so quickly, if that makes sense. So you can thank the version of yourself in the past for staying when you stayed, for leaving when it was necessary, for doing the hard work and the hard things, and for doing the best that you could have at that time. And you can say, thank you for all that, and I've got it from this point on. And we get to fully step into midlife at this point. And midlife, it gets to be like really a fabulous time in our life. And you get to choose. You could reinvent yourself. You could find the new version of self. You could become your best version. You can create version 2.0. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you can also sit with who you are right now. You can also spend some time with you. Before you jump on to the next version of yourself, you can get to know the version of yourself right now, right here, right? You could finally meet the woman that you have been all along. What does she like? The you, right here. What do you like? What makes you laugh? What makes her laugh? What what does she enjoy dressing as? Like, what does she like? What does she want to be and do around her, right? What conversations does she no longer want to participate in? What turns her on now? What does she find pleasurable? What does she want to learn? What does she want to contribute? What does she want to experience? What if your job, just for right now, just for today, is not to focus on creating the next version of yourself, but to get curious about the version that's right here, right? And I want to talk a little bit about our bodies, the bodies we have right now. So women's bodies don't have to become a project, right? We are taught from a pretty early age, and I see it happening because I have teenage daughters. And so I've seen that transition from them running free and loving who they are to that point where they'll tell me that their thighs are too big, or their breasts are too big, or their stomach's not small enough, you know? And I've seen that transition. And as much as I tell them about loving themselves and how beautiful they are, society is giving them a different message, right? Women's bodies are not about projects. There's something we get to love right now. We don't have to lose weight. We don't have to flatten this or cover up that or suck in this or remove that or fix anything. We don't have to look younger. We can look like the full age that we are. I can look the full 60-year-old that I am. You know, I can celebrate my gray hair as something beautiful and natural, right? It's something you don't see very often as the gray hair. I see a lot of people that are choosing to dye their hair, and that is fine. That is fine. But also, like, if somebody chooses to have gray hair, that doesn't mean there's an issue either, right? So a lot of things are happening and changing for us in midlife, and that's okay. And that's okay. And you don't have to ask yourself, what do I need to fix? What if we didn't need to fix anything? Maybe a better question is, how do I care for myself? How do I care for the person I am right now, the body I have right now, right? How do I do all that, right? How do I enjoy myself? Remember, your body has carried you through your entire life. So instead of declaring war on your body, you can meet her right where she is. You could be like, this is my body today. What does my body need? What would my body enjoy? What feels good? You can celebrate the fact that all your sensations, all your senses, everything is felt through your body, experienced through your body. What a wonderful gift your body's given you to feel alive. It's so good, right? What would it be like to care for your body without making sexual intimacy conditional for her? That she has to be smaller or younger or different, right? What if the condition for sexual intimacy is just that you get to have a body? And as long as you're having a body, I don't really know what spirits are doing. They might be having a really great sex life too. But in terms of as long as you have a body, you get to enjoy yourself. You get to enjoy that body. And it's not conditional in terms of the body looking a certain way. You just get to enjoy yourself, right? Okay. So I think at this point, the question begins to shift. For years, the question has been, what can I achieve? And now I'm finding I want to shift the question to how can I serve? What have I learned in my 40s, 50s, and 60s? What have I learned on this planet that somebody else may benefit from? The question to ask yourself is, who benefits from you being here? Maybe it's your family or it's your community, maybe friends, maybe your customers, depending on what type of job you have. But maybe that one person needs to hear you say something that only you can say because only you have had experiences. And we talked about letting go of the past. You can bring the wisdom from those past experiences into the present. You can keep the wisdom. You can just release the bullshit and keep all the wisdom that you got from all those years of experiences. And as we shift into midlife and beyond, how can we serve, right? In terms of like, we spend a lot of time being like, how can I change and who can I be in making this next level transition? I'm saying, how can I serve, right? How can I serve instead of what can I achieve? I've achieved a lot in my life, right? Coming from a poor kid, you know, who generation back, like was basically the people, my parents before me were basically homeless, and they strived for a future, and then they gave that to me, and I've achieved a lot. And getting to that place where it's like, how can I serve? How can I focus on serving and making this place better? This is why I do this work. And also, what more can I do? And recognizing when you're serving, it's not self-abandonment. You don't have to serve and exhaust yourself. You can serve and also appreciate yourself and love yourself and be kind to yourself. And both things can be true. We don't have to become workaholics in the serving either, right? We get pleasure from the serving, and we can make a difference in somebody else's life. And that is something that's important. And we also get to make a difference in our own life, right? So service can come from overflow, from abundance. It can come from, I take care of myself, I tend to my body, I experience pleasure, I create boundaries in my life, I rest, I fill my own cup. And from that place, then I can contribute. I get to know who I am first, right here, right now. I learn to love who I am right now. I release the past. I fill my cup right now, and I serve. That could be what we do. So at this point, I think that it's going to be the end of the podcast for this episode. So focusing on how do I serve, maybe how do I serve myself, and how, from a place of abundance, do I serve other people? You get to enjoy your life. You get to have fun. We have responsibilities. We have a lot of different things, but we also get to think about pleasure and make sure we have pleasure. So many fun things. And then from that place, you can go out and serve. Okay? Alrighty. I think that this is a good place to stop. I have other thoughts. I can do it in the next podcast. Okay. Diamonds, love you so much. Take care. Dr. Sonia out.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Midlife Sex Coach for Women podcast. If you enjoyed Dr. Sonia's fun and caring approach to sexual intimacy, head to SoniaWrightMD.com to learn more.